What if I told you that the microwave oven was invented by a man named Percy Spencer as a result of a chocolate melting accident? Would you believe me? I mean, it sounds crazy, right? Well, as crazy as it sounds, this is in fact how the microwave oven was truly invented. But before I tell you the details of this rather crazy story, first, you've got to remember to subscribe to my channel. Percy Spencer was born in 1894 and grew up to become a prominent physicist and inventor focused on radar and microwaves. And his skills were such that by 1939 he had risen to become head of the radar tube division at US defense giant Raytheon. And if you don't know what a radar tube is, it's a form of vacuum tube. And if you don't know what a vacuum tube is, it is basically a valve of sorts which can be used to control electric flow. They were invented by the British in the early 1900s. And though they aren't used much now, since much better technology has been invented, which has made them largely redundant, for most of the 20th century, they were in all the main technology from the day. So they were the main components fueling everything from things like radios, television sets, and of course, radar systems. In terms of why they were used in radar systems to release the microwaves, that means radar tubes, also known as magnetrons, were what sent out the pulses, which, if they hit something, caused things to go beep on the radar. This is why the better the radar tube was, the more accurate the radar was and the wider its range. And Percy Spencer, in his role as head of the radar tubes division at Raytheon, was tasked with making better radar tubes and so building better radars. And he was very good at his job, and not just on the invention side of things, but also on the improving the manufacturing side of things. For example, he came up with a way to increase production from 100 magnetrons a day to 2,600. And to say the least, this was massively important, especially after the British, through the Henry Tizard mission, had given the US military the cavity magnetron, which is often billed as the single-handed most important technology ever brought to America. And if you don't know what the cavity magnetron is, it is basically what made shortwave radar possible, which means Percy Spencer found a way to make shortwave radar mass producible. And it cannot be stressed enough just how important this was for the Allies when it came to winning World War II. In fact, it was far, far, far more important than even the Manhattan Project itself, which was important enough. But I better stop myself there before I go on forever espousing how important the cavity magnetron was, because we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the invention of the microwave oven and how a chocolate bar led to its invention, which of course begs the question, what does all this have to do with that? Well, a lot. You see, because come 1945, Spencer and his team were continuing to work to further improve the radar. And this is where things get interesting. One day while testing a magnetron, Spencer noticed that the chocolate from a candy bar that he had in his pocket had started melting, and yet the only thing he could postulate that could have caused the chocolate bar to melt were the microwaves from the magnetron, which he had of course been stood next to. However, because he wasn't certain that this was the source, he decided to do some experimentation. So he started placing other food items next to the magnetron to see what would happen. And one food item that he placed by it was some uncooked popcorn. The result of this was that the popcorn started popping, meaning the microwaves emitted by the magnetron were cooking the popcorn. This, of course, blew his mind. How could it not? Microwaves had never been used to pop popcorn before, and yet here he was watching popcorn being popped by microwaves. And in terms of what he did next, well, of course, what any sane scientist would do after such an unexpected discovery, he came up with another experiment. What he did was cut a hole into a kettle, attach a magnetron to that hole, and then he put an egg inside the kettle. The aim of the experiment was simple: to see what would happen to the food if the microwaves were contained in a tight space. And in terms of what did happen, well, legend has it that one of his co-workers, while peering into the kettle to see what was happening, got egg on his face. And I mean literally got egg on his face. This is because, as the legend goes, the egg exploded, which of course proves that on this day they were the first to learn that you don't microwave eggs without pricking a hole in the yolk. They were also the first to learn something else. This is because afterwards Spencer noticed that the egg had become fully heated through, which told him that microwaves, if they were concentrated in a contained space, had the power to quickly heat food through. And this further mind-blowing and thoroughly unexpected discovery inspired him to build a properly enclosed box with a magnetron attached. The result was that when he placed the food inside it, the microwaves cooked the food, meaning in this moment, off the back of a random incident involving a melting chocolate bar in his pocket, he had constructed the first microwave oven. Now, it should be noted that it didn't look anything like we know today, and this can be seen by the fact that the first one offered for sale by Raytheon in 1947 was 6 feet tall, 750 pounds, and cost what would be the equivalent today of $65,000. And it would take until the late 1960s for Raytheon to bring affordable countertop versions to market. But regardless, none of this changes the fact that the concept of the microwave oven was invented as a result of a chocolate bar melting in Percy Spencer's pocket while he was working on building better radar systems to help win World War II. Oh, and if you're wondering how much money Spencer made from his invention, $2. Yep, you heard that right. I'm not joking. $2. That's it. This is because, unfortunately for Spencer, as per Raytheon's terms and conditions for employment, they owned the rights to all things invented while he was under their employment. That means Spencer, despite discovering it and building it, did not get rich from it. I should add, it wasn't all bad for him, as he did at least go on to become senior vice president of Raytheon. Also, for his work on the radar, he was awarded the Distinguished Public Service Award, the highest award a civilian can receive from the US Navy. But yeah, anyway, I still bet it sucked not having that patent. I will leave things there and say thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, remember to give it a like and subscribe to my channel, because the more who do that, the more of these short histories I can make. Is that a good bribe? I hope it is, and I will see you next time.